I know you have been there and witnessed your 2-year-old child clamp like both hands around a toy like their life depended on it. Well, there was another little kid over there who's watching and waiting. I know you know the moment. It's that death grip. They're not even like really playing with the toy. They're just holding it tight. And then all it takes is just someone glancing their way and suddenly their grip gets even tighter. And immediately your body reacts. Can you share? Oh, give him a turn. Be nice. Maybe you even gently try to pry it out of their hands. Then you kind of begin talking and over-explaining, and then you feel that flash of embarrassment like everyone is watching you and silently judging. By the way, if toddler behavior has you wondering, is this normal, or questioning if you handled the moment right, I have something that will really help you, and I'll tell you about it later in the video. But let's slow that moment down because as parents, we have been taught we have to make our kids share. We have to do something in that moment. If our 2-year-old doesn't share, guess who everyone is suddenly looking at? Us. All eyes on us, like making our kids share, or we look like we're the bad mom. But we have to zoom out a bit on this one. And what I'm going to reveal to you right now is going to surprise you and give you so much relief. Now let's make sure we have the right pair of glasses on. If you don't know about your glasses, be sure to watch this video I have linked above in the series to get your pair. Through our default glasses, the ones that we were handed when we became parents, what do we see? Well, we see they're being selfish and possessive and not sharing, and they're difficult and rude and not listening to us. And because of that, we become the bad parent. However, as we know here in the garage, we don't do labels on kids and behavior. Developmentally, that moment with the toy was completely appropriate. Your toddler did exactly what I hoped they would. Why? Because a toddler doesn't yet have the skills to, 1, use words to say, hey, please don't take that from me right now. I'm playing with it. And 2, they don't have the ability yet to pause for a moment when it happened, process what just occurred, and then respond appropriately. That whole process won't be working all together like that for a few years. So for a 1 or 2-year-old, they were right on the mark with their behavior. When a toddler holds on to something tightly like that, it's not because of the toy. I know we think it's the toy, but the toy has actually very little to do with this. It's about protecting control. It's about predictability and ownership. In a world that feels very big and very unpredictable to our little ones, that object becomes something that they can control. So when another child begins to reach for it, their nervous system reacts. Not because they want to be rude or unkind, but because something feels uncertain from them. Remember, they are fresh and new to this world and these experiences. And we've just been taught as parents that we have to manage every moment and that we have to make them share. Sharing is not a personality trait. It's actually a stack of skills that are still under construction for a toddler. Because for a toddler to be able to truly share, here's what they need. They need to have emotional regulation, impulse control, frustration tolerance, the ability to wait, perspective taking, and they also need a secure sense that when they give something up, it doesn't mean that they're losing their connection or their safety. And holy cow, that's a lot of wiring. Those are a lot of cars that need parking. And at 1, 2, even 3, those cars are still learning the route. That wiring is still very early. And it builds so that around ages 4 to 5, it gets super developed. When I taught pre-K, my 4 and 5-year-olds were still working on sharing because that's actually the age that has been developmentally assigned as appropriate. But if a 2-year-old gets forced to share when it's not their time and they're not ready yet, believe me, it will show up when they are 4, making it harder to learn instead of being something that's reinforced at that age. So that death grip on that toy isn't selfishness. It's ownership that's beginning to form. Toddlers are in a massive mine phase. I know you've heard it. I do it. No, mine. That's not them being rude or manipulative or defiant or naughty. That's identity developing. And you have to remember and keep in mind that ownership develops before generosity and sharing does. You can't expect them to understand like that's yours before mine even feels secure to them. Sharing grows out of security, not out of pressure. Now, I want to bring it back to the parking lot for a minute. Remember, I mentioned that sharing is a stack of skills that are layered together? Well, that also then requires multiple parking spots. So the I can wait spot, I can handle frustration, I can handle my big emotions. Those spots aren't fully built. And so when another child reaches for the toy, the behavior car shows up. Not because your child is mean, but because the skill is still under construction and the car hasn't learned the route to park in the right spot yet. Remember, that's what we see with our new glasses is the skill under construction. Now, here's the part that's going to sting just a little bit. Sometimes it's not even about the toy. It's about you. It's about you feeling judged, you feeling exposed, you feeling like this tiny moment says something about your parenting. So you rush it. Say sorry. Please share. You have to give it back. But forced sharing does not build empathy. It builds what we call performance. And performance under that pressure doesn't create internal sharing or generosity. It creates compliance. So then the question becomes, well, then what am I supposed to do? Well, let's go back to a really simple example. Two kids, same age, let's just say 12 months, they're around one. One takes something from the other one. Through our old glasses, we panic, we swoop in, we make someone give it back, we apologize for them, we want to smooth it over because we feel uncomfortable. But with our skill glasses on, you might do almost nothing dramatic. You might calmly say, oh, look, you're holding a red car. That's it. There's no shaming. There's no forcing. There's no big energy. You don't make them give it back. You don't demand an apology. You just narrate what's happening. Then maybe you reach for another toy and say, oh, look, here's a blue car. Now we have two cars. And you include the other little child that's sitting there. So you kind of widen that moment instead of tightening it up. And what you're doing in the moment, parents, and this is where it's so critical, is you're modeling regulation. You're showing that the world doesn't fall apart when someone takes something from you. You're giving both children language without layering shame on top of a skill that hasn't formed yet. Over time, that steadiness wires something much more powerful than forced sharing ever could. Will you get stares? Yeah, you might. I know I did. There were definitely moments where other people looked at me and they were like, well, are you going to do something? But I stayed steady, and you can too. Because with your new glasses, you're not ignoring behavior. You're nurturing development. You're playing the long game because you understand what's really going on. And parents will be curious about what you're doing because it will make them feel less judged as well. And here's the other part that's equally important that we have to remember. The energy behind how you respond matters so much, parents. Your children feel that steadiness. So when you respond without panic, without embarrassment, without that rushed like edge in your voice, you're co-regulating. You're lending them your calm until they can build and have their own. And something else happens too. You begin to feel different. You're less embarrassed. You're more grounded. You're more confident in your knowing. When you know better, you do better. And once you see it, you can't unsee behavior through that developmental lens. You don't go back. So when does sharing actually make sense? Well, sharing doesn't start with freely handing over a toy. That is not the first developmental step. What comes first is parallel play. Two toddlers playing near each other, but they're not really interacting yet. They're just learning proximity, that someone's there next to them. Then comes supported turn taking, and it's my turn, your turn. And that's something you can practice at home. It's short, it's modeled, it's coached. That kind of back and forth becomes more realistic somewhere between 2.5 and 3. And even then, it's inconsistent. True voluntary sharing, where a child independently offers something without being prompted, tends to emerge closer to 3.5, 4, and even older. And even then, it depends on the skills of emotional regulation, impulse control, and other can-do skills having been parked. So we don't skip teaching sharing or generosity. We just don't skip the steps that get there. We don't jump straight to sharing before we've built taking turns. We build pre-sharing skills first. We practice waiting in tiny moments. We narrate, we model, we strengthen frustration tolerance gradually. Because development has an order. And when we honor that order and nurture that, growth feels steady instead of chaotic. So the next time you're in that situation and you see and feel that death grip happening, or maybe the moment where your toddler or someone else's toddler takes something and you feel those eyes staring at you, I want you to take a deep breath. Just remind yourself, my child isn't being selfish. They're being too. And you're not a bad mom for not forcing them to share. You're being a developmental leader who is playing the long game. You're building a foundation of security so that one day real sharing can grow from the inside out. Put on your skill glasses, stay in your lane, and trust the process. And if you want more help learning how to see this skill under the behavior, I created something called the Behavior Tune-Up Bundle. It walks you through the most common toddler behaviors and situations so you can stop guessing what to do in those moments and feel confident in the way you respond. No more second guessing. No more, is this normal? You can find it in the link below. You've got this, and I'll see you next time in the garage.